So today, we don't have the right to strike, essentially. On paper we do, but the fact is, if workers go on strike, they can be replaced. And companies let them know that. And there's lots of, kind of my growing up in the labor movement was around the time of a lot of strikes. And the first strike, I would say, national strike that I was part of, the Teamsters Union, was the UPS strike in '97, successful strike where workers didn't get replaced and kind of put back on the radar screen that we could strike. But on paper, we have the right to strike. In reality, you have to be willing to really, you don't have the backing of the government. You can be replaced. The right to organize, we have, as Jessica said, the Employee Free Choice Act. I would argue that to win the kind of legislation that John, and I thank you earlier, John, say it to your face, but I'm going to amplify it. You know, this movement to put legislation, a concrete piece of policy to a movement, I think is a crucial step in what's going on. But to win it, and I'm enmeshed right now in healthcare reform, and let me tell you, healthcare reform, the American public not too long ago was all for in a huge way, and we see the battles that we're in the middle of right now for something that I would say we had the public will for, right? So we have a lot of will development to do on the question of time off. The right to health care, economic rights. So why aren't we fighting for vacation? I'm going to get to that in a second, then open things to the next speaker. I just want to give some examples for the industry I know a little bit about more recently, and that's the grocery store industry. Just on the issue of scheduling alone, I'm not talking vacation. We had to fight to improve it from grocery workers would get their schedule for the coming Sunday this Thursday. So that's when their work schedule is, not let alone what time off they have later on. We improved it to, now we have, it varies by company, but sometimes they post 2-week schedules so people at least know 2 weeks ahead of time what's happening. Or in one company they moved it from Thursday, backed it up to Tuesday. So on Tuesday you know the following Sunday through Saturday what you're working. So these are the situations. So, you know, when it comes to vacation, oh, and on that there's a caveat. With 48 hours notice, the company, if they have extreme conditions, can change that if they need to.
Are those considered to be full-time employees, or
they are considered full-time, but they get less than what you would consider full-time. They're getting 32 hours and less. Safeway, if you take vacation, you got to take it in 7-day blocks, and it has to start on Sunday. So if your spouse, for whatever reason, can't take it until Tuesday, and you want to take 9 days, you're taking 2 1-week blocks, Sunday to Saturday, Sunday to Saturday. Or you can figure out how challenging that is. But that's, so even on paper when you have it, like we have it at Safeway, the ways of getting it. So briefly, I just want to say, so why aren't we doing more on this question? First, when John came to me, and I went to my leadership of my local, Dave Schmitz, Dave was all over it and said, yes, this is important, let's get going. But it wasn't on his radar screen before, partly because there's not a demand from the workers, partly, and this, I don't want to make excuses, but because of the economic things that we're fighting for, and people don't see their union today as fighting for more opportunities to cultivate our better nature. The union movement itself has reduced itself to economic, I would say, in many ways. We've defined ourselves more smallly than we should. But, and we mobilized quickly to try and help John out with Congressman Grayson. Nothing really came to fruition, but it's on our radar screen, and our union will be a partner in this legislation. We will work towards this as we move forward. But our members are fighting for, and as John points out, this tension between productivity, time. I went to the Heritage Foundation website. Very interesting how they blame people for taking vacation and therefore having less money to spend and hurting the economy. I mean, it's just wild stuff. But so there's a lot of cultural things, and our union is not immune to the cultural influences that permeate the rest of our culture, right? The rest of our society, right? So that's where we are, and we're open, glad to be challenged by John and by the rest of you, and I think there is a future for the labor movement in this question. But frankly, since the 30s and since 8 hours for what we will, we have not been in a proper place.
I just
So they had, thank you, I left out, they struck. The way they got the I'm not sure how you say that, Montignon Accord was they got it by having general strikes. And they struck all across the country. And they reached this agreement at the Hotel Montignon at 1 o'clock in the morning. And it was, please end the strikes because all the factories were shut down. In fact, to prevent being locked out, which is a tactic today, when workers go on strike, they get locked out. To prevent getting locked out, they just occupied the plants so that the companies couldn't lock them out. And it was under those conditions that they won 2 weeks for every single worker back then and created a culture in France of entitlement, which in fact people are entitled.
I'm here to kind of represent the small business. This is not my world, and it's shocking. There's another person from our organization here, and we keep exchanging horrified glances because I have to say the experience that I have in my office is night and day from the basic fundamental things that labor is fighting for. And it's really, it's horrifying, frankly. But I do want to tell you a little bit about how we have what we consider kind of a nirvana workspace, and it didn't come easy, but I thought to just talk more really about our personal experience, or my personal experience with our group, and how we have decided as a group to look at work and the world of what